Hello friends, I'm Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom has a fun mini April release that's patriotic themed. Here's a quick look at all the products in the April mini release. And if you are interested, I do have links in the description box below. You can always save by purchasing the full release bundle. First up is a stamp set called Celebrating 250 Years. This is currently not available for individual purchase. It's a freebie you'll receive if you purchase at least $50 worth of products, and one item must be from the new release. This is for a limited time or while supplies last. Next up is the stamp set called America Strong, and there are coordinating outline dies. I love this set. Perfect with America celebrating their 250th birthday this year. Many of the sentiments you'll only be able to use this year, but what a unique opportunity. Jaded Blossom still included several other sentiments on this set, so you'll be able to continue to use this set every year. I'm excited to use all the 250-year sentiments for my Independence Day cards this year. Next up is a die set called American Flag. There's a smaller size flag and then the larger flag. The small flag also has the flagpole, and there are two different heights. So you can have the shorter flag, which fits perfectly on a horizontal A2 size card, or for a vertical card, you can use the longer flagpole. I'll grab an A2 size card base. You can get an idea of the size of the two different flags and the flagpoles. So here's the shorter flagpole, and you can see it does fit either way. Now the longer flagpole will not fit on a horizontal card. And here's a look at the largest size flag. I'll remove it from the backing, and this will fit either vertically or horizontally on an A2 size card. Each of the flags have the background piece, and then there are individual dies for all the stripes, stars, and flagpoles. Next up is another die set. This one is Heart Flag, and there are two different designs. One has the upper left-hand area of the heart for the stars. The other heart is half and half, so half with the stars and the blue, and the other half with the red and white stripes. I think this is a really fun design. The final die set in the mini April release is called Build-A-Booth Patriotic Add-ons. So you will need the original Build-A-Booth die set, although you could still use all the pieces without the booth. But Jaded Blossom's Build-A-Booth set is super cute, and they have so many fun add-on sets for it. I'll pull the two sheets of dies out so you can get an idea of what's included. There are several different bunting options to decorate the booth, and then lots of fun fireworks. The four different bunting options could be used on any card theme, maybe not the fireworks though. The final item in the April mini release is a stencil set called Firework. And this is such a fun design with all the bursts of fireworks and lots of stars. So that's everything that's included in the April 2026 mini patriotic release. And if you are interested, I do have links in the description box below. I have several card designs to share with you using the new products. The pattern paper I'm using is from Doodlebug Design. It's their Hometown USA collection. It was released in 2024 and it is still available. I have my papers and scraps stored in a 6x6 Fancy Folio. I love using these for my paper pads. And I will have the paper collection and the Fancy Folio linked below. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I've already inked the background and I used Distress Oxide Salvaged Patina ink color. I left the very bottom white since I'm adding a dark gray strip of cardstock at the bottom. and this piece is 4 1/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. I cut out 3 clouds, and these are included on Jaded Blossom's rainbow die set. I'll add 2 of them on the right side, and I will have the very left side of the clouds go off the edge of the paper. Now I'll add 1 cloud on the right side, doing the same thing, having about half of it go off the edge of the paper. And I pulled out my silicone mat to adhere those clouds down so I don't get any glue on my craft mat. Now I'll flip over this panel, and with a pair of scissors, I'll trim off the overhang, so the edges of the clouds are flush with the edge of the background. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. So there's the background for a fun scene card, super easy. This card will feature one of the new flags with the flagpole, and this is the longer flagpole, so it works perfectly on a vertical card. I use white cardstock for the very background piece, and this will all be covered up. I used a silver satin mirror cardstock for the flagpole. There's also an individual piece that has just the flag, so you can build your flag on this piece and then add it on the full background piece. Since I'm using white cardstock for the background of the flag, I skipped 1 die piece. There's another piece that's the exact same size of this blue with all the little stars, although it's solid, so it doesn't have the stars. If you use a different color for the background, you would want to use that other piece to put behind the blue piece with the cutout stars. Another option, if you're feeling adventurous, you could inlay all those teensy tiny stars. For the stripes of the flag, there's 1 die, so you'll need to cut it out of both red and white. There are 7 stripes. The nice thing about the stripes, so there are 3 of the longer stripes. These are all the same size piece. And then the 4 shorter stripes, these are also the same size. So you don't have to keep track of each individual die cut once you cut it out. I added the blue panel down first, then I'm starting with the stripes from the top to bottom. And when adhering them down, I'm making sure there's not any gap between each stripe. I have 1 final red stripe to adhere, and I'll keep the leftover stripe die cut pieces for future flags. So there's the American flag all assembled, and this is the smallest size flag from the new release. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it on the background piece. Now I'll flip over the flag. I am putting foam dimension on the back, but only behind the flag, not behind the flagpole. I'm using Scrapbook.com's large foam squares in the 1 millimeter thickness. I'll remove the release paper. Then behind the flagpole, the bottom section, I'm putting barely art glue. Now I'll add the flag on the left side of the card, about 1/2 inch in from the very left edge. On the right side of the card, I'm adding a gnome, and I've already assembled her. I used Doodlebug Designs pattern paper for her hat and dress, and I'm having her hold a large white star, and I used some white shimmer cardstock for the star. This star is included in Jaded Blossom's Gnome Patriotic add-on set. I put glue behind her hands, but just in the finger area, and I'll add 1 hand on the right side, the other on the left, so it looks like she's holding it. I will pop up the star with her hands using some small foam squares from Scrapbook.com in the 1 millimeter thickness. Now I'll attach the star in front of the gnome, making sure the point of the star isn't poking her in the nose. Now I'll flip over the gnome, and I am popping her up with more foam using the small and large foam squares. I'll remove the release paper and add the girl gnome on the right side of the card. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut out America Strong. The ink color I used is Catherine Pooler's Rockin Red. I'm adding the sentiment on the left side of the gnome, and part of it will overlap the flagpole. On the right side of the sentiment, where it goes off of the flagpole, I will pop it up using the 1mm foam. Then behind the left side of the sentiment, I'll add Barely Art Glue. For embellishments, I have Doodlebug Designs Shape Sprinkles, the Old Glory set. I'll add 3 blue stars on the clouds, and these are 3 different shades of blue. I'll also add 2 red heart jewels on her hat, and these are from Doodlebug's Mini Jewels Patriotic Assortment set. For a final finishing touch, I'm using a white gel pen and adding some highlights on her hat and a little bit on the top of her nose. So there is my finished card, and I ended up making 7 using this design. 5 of them are vertical cards, and 2 of the cards are horizontal. I wanted to also use the shorter flag and show the difference on a vertical and a horizontal card. I used a mix of the boy and girl gnomes and also changed the hair and skin tones. On the horizontal card, there was a little more space, so I did change the sentiment to Freedom Soars for 250 years. Now moving on to card design number 2. I selected 3 pattern papers. The light blue polka dot paper is from Doodlebug Designs Petite prints, and the firework and tone-on-tone heart design are from the homegrown USA 6x6 paper pad. On the top and bottom edge of the blue polka dot paper, I'm adding the red heart tone-on-tone. The blue polka dot paper is 4 inches by 3 inches, and the red heart paper is 4 inches by about ½ an inch. I put adhesive on the back of the blue polka dot, and I'll add those red strips, creating a little border. For the background of my card, selected the fun red, white, and blue firework paper, and that piece is 4 inches by 5¼ inches. I'll add the red and light blue panel about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge of the firework pattern paper. For a little bit of sparkle, I'm putting a Love from Lizzie peel off along the edge of the light blue polka dot paper. I'm using the pinstripe style in silver holographic, and this is the medium width. I'll wrap the ends around the back, then layer this piece on some dark blue cardstock. And that cardstock layer is 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. Now I'll put more adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. This card will feature the large flag, and I've already die cut out all the pieces. The assembly is similar to the smaller flag, but the large flag does include all 13 stripes. Although there are not 50 stars, I believe I counted 28. Now the stars on this flag are larger than the stars on the small flag. So if you want to inlay all 28 of the stars, that is an option. But I'm doing it just like the previous flag and using white cardstock for the background. I did keep all the tiny blue stars. I think they would be fun to include inside a shaker card. I attached the blue panel down first. Now I'll add all the stripes starting with red. And just like with the smaller flag, the short stripes are the same piece and the long stripes are the same piece. So you don't have to keep track of each specific stripe. They will all work, just the short and the long. I am using my reverse tweezers to hold the stripes. Then I'll put Barely Art Glue on the back, and I'm making sure they are nice and tight next to the previous stripe. That way there aren't any gaps. And then one by one, I'll add all the stripes until I have all 13. I love the wavy style of the large flag. It looks like it's blowing in the wind. I have just 2 more stripes to add, a white and then finishing off with a red stripe. And after I attach those final 2 stripes, I will have quite a few extra pieces, and I'll hang on to those for a future flag project. So there's the larger size American flag all finished. I'll pull out the sentiment and my other die cut pieces from the small stack and sort tray and then set that aside. I will be popping up the flag using the large foam squares in the 1mm thickness. I'll make sure to have good coverage, remove the release paper, and add the flag inside the light blue polka dot panel, and I'm putting it at a slight angle. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut out 250 years of independence. I also popped that up using more foam. I'll remove the release paper and add this sentiment in the lower right-hand corner. For embellishments, I cut out some stitched star pieces from silver holographic paper. The medium and small stars are from Jaded Blossom's Embellishment Cluster die set, and the larger star is from the new Build-A-Booth Patriotic add-on set. So there is my finished card, and I did make 5 using this design. For card design number 3, I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Cards TV. It's sketch number 79. And if you're interested in this sketch, including measurements, I share all that information on my coordinating blog post. The link is in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. I selected 3 pattern papers, the white tone-on-tone wood grain and the blue polka dot are more Doodlebug design Petite prints, and the plaid design is from the Hometown USA 6x6 paper pad. For the background panel, I'm using a light gray that has a pearlescent finish. This is a cardstock from Basil. I'll add the wood grain on that gray piece, then layer it on dark blue cardstock. Put adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I'll put the plaid piece on the left side of the card. Now the blue polka dot piece, I did cut larger than what's indicated on the card sketch. The blue piece is 2 5/8 of an inch by 2.5 inches. And the cardstock layer for the plaid and the blue polka dot paper are an additional 1/8 of an inch. Before adhering the blue polka dot panel down, I did put some scrap pieces of cardstock on the right and bottom area where it goes off of the plaid paper so it stays at the same level. So there's the background design of my card. Now it's time to assemble one of the heart flags. This one has the smaller blue star area and then 7 stripes. So I use white cardstock for the background. I'll add that blue piece down first. I'll make sure it's lined up perfectly with the background. Now I'll start with the stripes, red one first. I'll make sure it's on nice and straight. That way the rest of the stripes will line up perfectly as I work my way down the heart. Now for the 2 different heart flag images, the stripes are not the same size. Each one is different. But they're different enough so it's easy to find the next piece. You just need to cut out one set in red and one in white. I have one more of the shorter stripes. This is a red piece. Then I'll move on to the widest stripe on this heart flag style, and that's white. Then another wider stripe red, then finally white, and the very bottom of the heart will be red. I need quite a few Independence Day cards this year. I'll be giving them to the residents at a nearby retirement home, adding a written message inside so it'll be happy mail for the residents. The flag and heart flag images in Jaded Blossom's new release were easy enough to assemble so I could mass produce and make several of each design. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out. Happy 250 USA. Using the outline die, I cut out another piece from dark blue cardstock, and I'll layer the sentiment on that blue piece offsetting it slightly so you can see just a peak of blue on the left and bottom area of the sentiment. I will be popping up the heart and the sentiment using more foam. Behind the sentiment, I'm using the small foam squares. On the very right side of the sentiment, I'm also adding a scrap piece of cardstock, and you'll see why here in a moment. Now I'll put foam behind the heart flag. This time I'm using the large foam squares, but I do have several of them cut in half. I'll remove the release paper, add my heart flag inside the blue polka dot panel. And this is why I cut that piece larger than what's indicated on the card sketch. Now remove the release paper from the foam behind the sentiment, and on that cardstock area, it's behind the word USA. I'll add a little bit of glue. I'll add the sentiment above the light blue polka dot panel, and the word USA goes off the edge of the plaid paper, so that's why I added that extra layer with the scrap cardstock. For embellishments, I'm using Doodlebug Shape Sprinkles, the Star Spangled set. I'll put 2 red stars in the upper right-hand corner and 1 on the left side of the flag heart. So there is my finished card, and I did make 5 using this design. For card design number 4, I'm using the new Firework stencil set. I'll be stenciling on my magnetic glass mat from GLASSBOARD Studio. This is one of their smaller sizes. To hold this stencil in place, I'm using Scrapbook.com's GripMate. This is the mini size. It's tacky on both sides, so it'll grip to my glass mat and also the paper and stencil. For the background of my card, I know it's hard to see on the video, but it's white with light gray polka dots. It's more Doodlebug design Petite print. I cut that piece to 4 inches by 5¼ inches. I'll lay it in the center of the GripMate, then place the stencil on top, pressing firmly on those outside edges of the stencil so I know it won't move. The ink color I'm using is Distress Oxide Salvaged Patina, and I'm using a mag ink tray from GLASSBOARD Studio along with one of their MiniPawn Magnets to hold the ink pad in place. So there's the background all finished using the new Firework stencil design. I'll clean up my GripMate just using a baby wipe. I'll also wipe down my GLASSBOARD Studio craft mat using the same baby wipe, then I'll dry it using a crafty cleanup cloth from Scrapbook.com. To go along with the fun firework background, I'll be adding more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the pinstripe style in silver holographic. They're super sparkly. I'm using the widest width and adding 1 strip along the outside edge, putting it about 1/8 of an inch in from the very outside border. I am cutting them just a little bit longer so you can see them going off the edge of this panel. Once I have 2 of the peel-offs crossing, I'll use a craft knife and miter the corner to create this fun holographic frame. I'm pressing the very edge of the craft knife into the corner, cutting those 2 peel-off pieces. Then I'll remove the extra, and once it's finished, I'll have this fun holographic frame. And I love all the beautiful holographic sparkle. Now I'll add this piece on some dark blue cardstock, and that cardstock layer is A2 size. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This card will feature the other heart flag, half of it with the stars and the other half is stripes. I'll also be adding one of the girl gnomes, and I've already assembled most of her. I know she looks a little odd, but don't worry, it will make sense in a moment. I'll start by assembling the heart flag. So I'm doing it the same as all the other flags. I use white cardstock for that very background piece. The dark blue piece will go on the left side with all the cut out stars. And of course you can inlay all those teeny tiny stars. Now I'll start with the stripes on the right side. Red first. This heart flag has 9 stripes and each stripe is different. So they only go in one spot. Even though I was trying to be very careful, kept everything organized in the stack and sort trays, I ended up losing one of the white stripes. I guess that's what happens when you do a ton of die cutting. But no worries, I went and cut out another one so I can continue adding the stripes to my heart flag. So here's my replacement stripe. Put glue on the back, adhere it down, and then I have 3 final stripes to add. I love both designs of the heart flags. Which one is your favorite? The one I'm using now with the half and half, or the one I used on the previous card with just that upper left-hand area with the blue and white stars. So now I'm on the final piece of this heart flag. A teeny tiny red triangle will be the final stripe. And now I really don't want you to panic, but I am cutting off the bottom half of my girl gnome. Only because it won't be visible, so I don't need those extra layers behind the heart flag. On the back side of the heart, I'm putting some clear double-sided adhesive tape. I'll remove the release paper. Now I'll add the gnome behind the heart, so you only see her upper body. So this is why I trimmed off the lower section. I also didn't want any of her little foot stubs sticking out around the heart. I still need to attach her hands, and I'm putting them at the very top of the heart, so it looks like she's holding on to that top edge. I'll add some foam behind the back area of her hand and put glue behind the fingertip area. I'll add one hand on the right side and the other on the left. And I have the thumbs in, since that's what it would look like if you were holding onto an object like this. So there's the cute little girl gnome holding a heart flag. I did pop her up using some foam dimension, and I'm adding her on the center of my card. I'm holding my card up to the grid lines on my craft mat to make sure the very center of the heart is centered on the card. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out, celebrating 250 years of liberty and freedom. I put clear double-sided adhesive tape on the back, and I'll also add a little bit of glue, then add the sentiment on the heart. And I put it between 2 red stripes on the right side. That way the white cardstock from the sentiment didn't blend in with the white stripe. I also added a couple of star gems on her hat using the Doodlebug mini jewel set. Now moving on to my final card design, number 5. This card will feature Jaded Blossom's Build-A-Booth and their new Patriotic add-on set. I've already gone ahead and assembled the booth, and you can always watch some of my other Jaded Blossom videos if you need to see how to assemble it, but it's very simple. For the background of my card, I'm using a light blue, and it almost has a texture look to it. This is pattern paper from 49 and Marcotte. It may be retired, but if it's not, I will link it in the description box below. The green strip at the bottom is more of Doodlebug Designs Petite prints. There are so many fun ways you can decorate your booth with the new Patriotic add-on set. I selected this fun bunting design. So for the very background that has the string, I used some white shimmer cardstock. And then the 3 individual pieces, the largest one I used red cardstock. The medium, I use more of the white shimmer cardstock. And the blue is the final piece with the 2 tiny stars and the 1 larger star. I started by adding them on that background piece with the string, but I found it easier to first assemble those 3 pieces together and then add them on the bunting piece. So there it is, all finished. Now I'll put glue on the back and attach it to the front of the booth, and I'm putting it at the bottom area. I did pop up the booth using some foam dimension, and inside the little nail or screw areas, I used some Love from Lizzie peel-offs. It's the silver mirror color in the bubble design. There's some tiny circles that fit perfectly in these little circle cutouts. I did place an acrylic block on top of the bunting, let that sit for a few minutes, and while I'm waiting for that, I'll work on the sentiment. At the top of the booth, I'm adding the sign Made in the USA, and I did pop it up using more foam. I'll adhere it at the top of the booth at an angle, and I'm also adding 1776. I'll put the date on the right side underneath the Made in the USA sign. Now for the rest of the images for the booth, I'm using the fireworks. There are the two outline pieces. So one of them features 3 of the fireworks, the other features 4. You can use those as a guide, or you can use the fireworks individually, and that's what I'll be doing for this card. But I will hold the individual firework pieces on the background so you can get an idea of what it looks like. So with those 2 bundles, there's 7 fireworks. So there are also 2 fireworks that are lit, so they have the little flame on the bottom, and I'm assembling all 9 of them. I did speed up this portion quite a bit while I'm assembling 9 different fireworks. But the fireworks are very simple. I use white cardstock for the main piece, and then a mix of a light blue, dark blue, red, and white shimmer cardstock for the rest of it. And I try to alternate the colors so they don't look the same. There are options to add stripes to some of the fireworks. So on the largest size, I put those red stripes, and there's a smaller one. I use a light blue for the stripe. So now the final 2 are the lit fireworks. Use orange cardstock for that little flame. I only use solid colored cardstock for the fireworks, but I think they would also be really cute using pattern paper. So I have just one final piece to add, and there are the 9 different fireworks. I'm grabbing one of the outline pieces and holding the 3 fireworks together so you can see what that little cluster looks like. It's very cute, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm using them all individually, so I will set aside those outline pieces. I'm adding the 7 non-lit fireworks inside the booth, and I have them all sitting upright. I'll put glue on the back and start adhering them down, leaving a little bit of space between each of them. The tallest firework, that's the dark blue with the light blue tip, I'm putting it on the left side of the 1776, and I am sliding the very bottom edge of each of the fireworks underneath that top edge of the booth. Since I'm using glue, I have a little bit of time to get each of the fireworks adjusted before they're down permanently. I'm alternating the sizes and colors. So I have just one final firework to add on the inside of the booth, the red with the light blue stripe. The 2 lit fireworks I'm putting at the very top of the booth on the right side. I will pop up the longer one so it has that dark blue body with the white tip. Put foam dimension on the back and a little bit of glue behind the tip. Adhere it at the top. The tip will sit on the upper right-hand corner of the sign. Then I'll put glue on the back of the final firework and adhere it on top of that other one. And I'm angling them so you'll still be able to see both of the designs. For a final finishing touch, I'm using a white gel pen and adding highlights on each of the fireworks. Jaded Blossom's Build-A-Booth die sets are so fun, and I love the new Patriotic add-on set. So there is my finished card, and I did make 5 using this design. I couldn't decide which of the decorations in the Patriotic Build-A-Booth add-on set to use, so I ended up using all of them, and I did use the stars twice. For the rest of the design of the card, I did keep it the same. You could easily use the pieces in the Patriotic Build-A-Booth add-on set for any card theme. Just leave out the fireworks. Now here's another look at the 27 cards I made using Jaded Blossom's brand new April 2026 Mini Patriotic release. It's so fun that Jaded Blossom has a release to celebrate America's 250th birthday. I still need more patriotic cards, so expect to see more of Jaded Blossom's release in future videos. If you are interested in the release or any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.